Okay, so if you have been following anything I've been doing recently or watching my recent stuff, or maybe follow me on any kind of my social medias, you are aware already that I have converted Icon Garuda into a summon, or Icon Garuda from Final Fantasy 16 into a summon for Final Fantasy 14. I'm very proud of this because it it really was kind of a breakthrough for creature editing. Um, it's the first time I kind of felt like I've lost my sense of imposter syndrome as a mod creator. Um, the reason this edit is kind of different um, than like most previous attempts to do similar things is um, this was a full conversion. So in for a lot of some previous attempts or some previous success that people have had with doing or attempting similar things is like taking a existing or a model from another game and weighting it to an existing skeleton in Final Fantasy 14, which is great in itself, but you still have the animations that are missing, and usually things warp. This did not do that. This was a full conversion of the assets. Basically, this, if you remember the crossover event that 14 had with 16, this is basically what Square Enix did to make the assets from 16 compatible with 14. In fact, I can show you kind of how. Uh, so if I import, if you remember, we had the Ifrit, the 16's Ifrit in the event for 14. And so give this a moment. But I'll show you how the skeleton and the naming conventions for this model, because this model is in 14, and how it's so much different than or how it is exactly the same almost um, to 16. There's very subtle differences, but it's the exact same size and things are in the exact same place. Um, but like if this is the Ifrit from 16, but this is his skeleton and his model in 14. This is what we had in the event. And as you can see, his skeleton has these like tendril things, these things that come off of it. Um, okay, so I should say this now. If you do not want 16 spoiled for you at all, um, go ahead and close this video. There's going to be spoilers in this video, so I'll give you a moment to go ahead and close the video so that I don't spoil anything for you because I'm going to be discussing certain things that happen in 16 that are relevant to the explanation um, for uh, the state of things and how things work and how my reasons for things for these conversions. So yeah, go ahead and shut the video now if you don't want anything spoiled. So let me give you a moment. So these tendrils, these are related to when Ifrit and Phoenix combine in their fight against Bahamut. He gets these like phoenix wings and stuff off his back, which are these like phoenix, the feathers and stuff off his back, which are really pretty and everything. That's what these control. But as you can see, those are missing here. They're not on his model here. And, but the skeleton is still there. So if this skeleton was just some asset that Square Enix made for 14, they wouldn't need all this. This skeleton was literally ripped from 16 and converted to 14. So, and I'll show you the same model in Final Fantasy 16. So go here, where I've extracted these things already. Oh, I need GLTF, not FBX. Because the tools for 16 extract to GLTF. E for eat, buddy base. We don't need a high level of detail, so let's just go with that. So as you can see, now the model is superimposed on top, and you can see the Z displacement, this displacement stuff, how it kind of flickers and everything. That's because the model is literally on top of itself, almost vertex for vertex. As you can see, the skeleton, even though they're, in like a, direction, they're directional, they don't just point up or out, they're all matched here. We can go here and you can see the naming of the skeleton. Let's scroll down here. So I'll expand this out a little bit. As you can see, we've got en root and hara, and then we've got j hip, spine A. Here we have en root and center, which is just en hara, and then open here, and we've got j hip, spine A, and it just goes down. It just keeps going down. Leg AL, leg AR, leg AL, leg AR, tail A. So yeah, these assets were basically just taken from 16 as they are in 16, and converted to 14. So yeah, so it was possible. We knew it was possible. It's just we hadn't figured out how to do it yet. And that's what I'm going to try to cover in this video. What I'm not going to cover is I'm not going to cover the tools for Final Fantasy 16 modding. If you will need to learn those tools to do this, but I want this video to mostly focus on how to convert these assets to work with Final Fantasy 14. The things that you absolutely need to change or edit or make compatible with the game. So what I'm going to start with is, well, before I get that, basically each game has, to go into not to go on a tangent here, each game has its own modding tools. Final Fantasy 16's modding community is fairly young, because it only kind of recently came out on PC, but they've done some great stuff. They've got some great tools already, even for how young they are. I could not have done this without both the tool creators of 16 and the tool creators of 14. The saying, standing on the shoulders of giants. That's, as mod creators, those are the shoulders we stand on. People who are brilliant tool creators, and if you ever have a chance to thank them because they make this all possible. Anyways, tangent done. So let's start with what assets we need. So first, for Final Fantasy XIV, to create a creature, to edit a creature, there's three main assets. There's other things that you can do beyond these assets, but there's three things you absolutely need. One is the animation, one is the model, and one is the skeleton. So one animation, two model, three skeleton. I'm going to go in those orders because that's the order of kind of the complexity. The animation is really not that hard to convert to 14. So once you get an animation to a point where you can use it, you can pull it in to Blender to use properly, you can usually edit it to be compatible. So I'm just going to pull the idle for someone here. kind of recognize the motion, you might know who this is. If you don't, I'm just going to say it anyways. This is Icon Titan, who I have started working on. So to edit the animation, we've got these bones here, right? So if you've ever worked with animations or skeletons in Final Fantasy XIV, you probably recognize this bone, or this name, n_root. What you may not recognize is it's usually not a bone. It's usually not this far into what I call the hierarchy, or the skeleton hierarchy. And I'll get into the hierarchy later. So we don't want this. We don't want this. n_center, if you're not aware, I'm sure I'm pronouncing it wrong, but Hada, n_Hada, that is center, n_center. So for this to be recognizable by Final Fantasy XIV, we have to change the name of this and remove these two, and we have to change armature to n_root. So to remove the bones that we don't want, go into edit mode, and I'm going to select n_root and n_skeleton, or not n_root and skeleton, and delete those. And then armature, I'm going to rename armature to n_root, and n_center, I'm going to rename to n_Hada. And that's it. Now his idol should be compatible with Final Fantasy XIV. Seems pretty easy, I know, but as I said, this is the easiest part. As you can see, I've already done all my animations for Titan, so just do that. Alright, so now the next thing, the model. So I've got my model. This one was Ifrit. Here we go, Titan. So here's Icon Titan. So just like the animation, I have to edit the skeleton, but I also have to edit the name of this model, and I have to I'm going to remove some of these model pieces. Just like with Ifrit, who no longer has the feathers, there's parts of him that I don't need. And Final Fantasy XIV has a vertex limit. The vertex limit, which I found out with Garuda, is about 8.3 million. With Garuda, I shot past that limit by a good 5 million. Yep. So try to keep it under 8.3 million if you can. So need to edit the skeleton again. So n_root and n_skeleton. I don't want those, so delete those bones. Rename n_center to n_hada. Name armature to n_root. So now the skeleton of the model is fine, is good. But I still have to edit the model itself. So there's some pieces that I don't want. So these are the eyes, those are fine. This, again, spoilers. This part of the model is, so if you're not aware, Kupka gets his hands cut off. And his icon has its hands missing when he summons it. And they glow and everything, and that's how they do the glow and everything on the model. But I don't need that. It's inside the model itself, and we don't need that. Let's see. Keep going. Again, these hands are inside the model. This is like when the skeleton, when like the muscle and sinew is growing on it. So I don't need that. And there's the skeleton of the hand of when he regrows them. I don't need that. So now I should be left with just the parts that I need. So then I have to rename them. So part 0.0. You have to have them named as parts, something, 1.0, part 2.0, or whatever, for the game to recognize the model. Okay, so the model's been renamed. So now this model should work with our game. Um, Now I'm not going to go into like texture editing or material editing. If you've done creature editing, if you've modded in Final Fantasy before, if you've never dealt with creature editing before, or never dealt if you've never dealt with material editing and texture editing before, go back and learn that first. Because I'm basically expecting y'all to already know that stuff for this. There's too many variables to cover for this, so um, I'm not going to really go into that. This is just for the basic core assets. So here's my model. All right, so my model's set up. Now I need a skeleton. To get the skeleton, I'm going to delete the model, and now I have a skeleton. I've already got the naming convention set up here. So all I need to do is export this as a GLTF. And I've used this preset that I've had for VFX models. It seems to work fine. Here are the settings for it if you need to see those. Um, but it works fine for my purposes. Maybe I don't need all these settings. I don't know, but it's been compatible with what I needed. So let's export that. Now, in the game, what I have here is I have these skeleton for the Infernal Shadow, and also I'm going to go ahead and close this because I don't need this anymore. I have another Blender window open to show the next part. So what we have here is we have the skeleton for the Infernal Shadow. And if you're not aware, Infernal Shadow is the name in the editor for the Final Fantasy 14 or Final Fantasy 16 Ifrit from the crossover event. I use that because there's several things already in here, already named. It kind of gets some of the order right, but we're gonna have to edit that, and I'll show you what I mean by edit that. So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to replace this with the GLTF I just exported for the skeleton. And now we have his skeleton in here. As you can see, he's very large. You can do scaling and everything once you get the core assets done. It's much easier to scale down the animations after you have a working skeleton than it is to try to work with the animation and not have a working skeleton yet. So we need to get the skeleton working. And oh, I messed that up. So let's go back to my skeleton. There's something missing here. With the skeleton, what I forgot to cover, I'll just pull in a low poly version and remove the models. Edit the skeleton again. Delete those. And Hara. And root. What I forgot was to rename this to N root. So both of those should be en route. Now I can export as a GLTF. And what that changed here, so as you can see, something's missing here. There's no en route. So if we replace that now, en route shows up. So now we've got the GLTF into a skeleton. But we're not done. The most complex and tedious part of this is this. Welcome to the bone list. So the bone list relies on what is known as, or what I call the bone hierarchy. The bone hierarchy is this. So the hierarchy, if I can just try to give a quick example, close some of this because I've been working on it already for a little bit. So the bone hierarchy starts at en route. So it starts here. This has to be ordered by the bone hierarchy going top down, top to bottom, in layers. And layers. So what that means is, so I have en route here. So en route has to be up here at the top. There's layer 1. Layer 2, we've got en hara, en midpoint, en slope angle, en throw. So en hara should be here below en route, en midpoint below en hara, en slope angle under en midpoint, en throw under en slope angle. And that's layer 2 done. Next layer, J hip, spine 0. So I've got J hip here, needs to go under en throw. Spine 0, 1, all the way down here, yeah, as I expected. Okay, so there's layer 3. Next layer, leg half 0, 1 L. Okay, that's already there below spine 0. Leg half 0, 1 R, that's there. But then we have leg 0, 1 L. That's here. So I need to move that up here below leg half 0, 1 R. Leg 0, 1 R. Leg half 0, 1 R. So leg 0, 1 R is probably further down here. Yep, there it goes. So I need to move that up here below there. And then spine 0, 2. Below leg 0, 1 R. And that is that layer down. So now on to the next layer. And so on and so forth. And now you can see why this is one of the most complex edits for doing creature editing we have. You have to go down each layer and keep going until you reach the last layer, and all 100 and something bones are ordered properly in the bone list, and you're still not done. So once the bone list is ordered, you have to also order the layers. So layer 0 should have just en route. So remove all those. So now we have en route on layer 0. Layer 1 starts at en hara because that's next. And then we have en midpoint, and then en slope angle, and en throw, J hip, so on and so forth. And you have to go, again, order it by hierarchy here, just like you did here. Doing it here first is important. You do it here first because this list informs this list. And then once you have this list done, you can just go in here, drop down, okay, and midpoint. Okay, next one, and slope. Okay, next one, and throw. And it should be in ordered here for you to do down this entire list. I will show you what the skeleton for Garuda looks like. So here is all the bones set up for Garuda. You can see en route was the first one. And it is all ordered by hierarchy. There's what our skeleton looks like. And once you get it all ordered, you will then have a working skeleton for the game. Yeah. So this right here is the crux of the issue, the complication. This was the fly in the ointment, the thing that took me a week to troubleshoot. Because we didn't know this was the issue. We didn't know if it was the model, if it was the animation, if it was something not updating in temp files properly, if any of it. But yeah, so that's how you get a creature conversion to work. Skeleton is the I don't know what you want to call it, the Rosetta Stone, the thing that translates it to the game. Um, yeah, so that is a look at behind the scenes of how I did the Icon Garuda. And now I am going to keep working on Titan, which I have been working on for a few hours now. So yeah, have fun with that. I understand if this turns a lot of people away from this type of mod. I I almost gave up several times. I did. Uh, it it was it was very difficult. Um, it I will say once you know and everything, once you figure it out, it's less difficult. It's less intimidating. You know, I've already got the animations and the model done, and I'm a little ways away from finishing the skeleton already, and it's like day 2, whereas it took me a week to get to even halfway this point for Garuda. So it takes practice. It just, you know, perseverance, um, focus. It is tedious. Uh, Maybe a tool developer can make something that'll make it easier. I don't know. I'm not smart enough to make a tool to make it easier, and so again, if they do, stand on the shoulders of giants, people. Enjoy.